Hello, sports fans. Welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 11 NFL predictions. So last week in Week 10, I had a pretty solid week going 8-6, and that brings my record on the season to 97-51. So kicking things off this week on Thursday Night Football, we have the Jets at the Patriots. The Patriots, they're great. They're 8-2, which is tied for best record in the league, and they've won 7 games in a row. And then it faced the Jets, who are one of the worst teams in the NFL. Now the Jets, they have won back-to-back games, as they've beaten the Bengals and Browns. Now it's obviously not the highest competition, but it's still progress for the Jets. And it's actually the first time they've won back-to-back games since weeks 2 and 3 of last season. Well, I don't really think this game is going to be that close. The offense for the Patriots is great, putting up 26.5 points per game. Drake May is playing at an MVP level, and Trevion Henderson looks good after they finally involved him in the offense. And I think the offense for the Patriots is going to continue to play well, because the Jets' defense isn't great, as they're giving up 26.8 points per game and 138 rushing yards per game. And then on the flip side, the Jets' offense isn't very good, as they're scoring just 21 points per game and have the league's worst passing offense. And then it faces a good Patriot defense, allowing just 19 points per game. But I don't really think this game is that close. I think the Patriots dominate on both sides of football and win this game by a score of 28-12. Moving to the games on Sunday, beginning with the Dolphins against the Commanders in Madrid. This is an interesting game. Neither team is that good as they're just 3-7, but I think this game could be somewhat interesting. The Commanders, they're coming off a blowout loss to the Lions, and the Dolphins, they blew out the Bills last week. And in that game for the Dolphins, their offense looked really good, putting up 30 points, and they ran the football really effectively. And I definitely think they can carry that over into this week's game, because they don't face the Commanders' defense that isn't great, allowing 28 points per game and 134 rushing yards per game. Plus, they really struggled to stop the run last week. And on the flip side, the offense for the Commanders isn't anything amazing, as they're putting up 22.5 points per game. And then I face the Dolphins' defense that also isn't amazing, as they're allowing 25.6 points per game. Well, I really have no idea which way this game's going to go. I think this is going to be a little bit of a higher scoring game because both these teams are pretty bad defensively. And I'm not really super impressed with either team's offense, but I'm going to take the Dolphins to get the win. I like the way their run game matches up against the Commanders' defense. I think that's the difference. And I've got the Dolphins with the win in a higher scoring game, 27-23. Up next with the Panthers at the Falcons. This is another tough game to predict. The Panthers, they're 5-5, although coming in off a bad loss to the Saints. And the Falcons, they're 3-6, and they've lost 4 games in a row. Now, when these teams met back in week 3, the Panthers dominated, winning by 30, but I definitely think this game is going to be a lot closer. But the offense for the Panthers, they're okay, putting up 22 points per game, and they've really built their offense around Rico Dowdle and running the football. And that makes a lot of sense considering he's third in the NFL in rushing, while the Panthers, they ran into a problem last week, where the Saints, they stacked the box and forced Bryce Young to beat them through the air, and Bryce Young couldn't do it, and that's a big reason the Panthers lost. And I definitely think the Falcons could do the same thing, because they would also be playing into their strength of their defense, because they've got the number 1 pass defense in the NFL, giving up just 162 passing yards per game. And while that does seem like a good strategy for the Falcons, it might not work because they can't stop the run. But then on the flip side, the offense for the Falcons isn't that good, as they're scoring just 18.7 points per game, and then if it's a Panthers defense that's playing pretty well, having about 17 points or fewer in 3 of their last 4 games. But this is a game where I really have no idea who to predict, and I can definitely see this game going either way. I don't really trust either team, but I don't really think either team is terrible either. And I really think this game comes down to who can run the football more effectively. I trust Bijan Robinson a little bit more than I trust the Panthers run game. So I'm taking the Falcons to win a close one 24-21, but this game can really go either way. Up next we have the Buccaneers at the Bills. This game should be pretty good, and both these teams are looking for bounce-back wins after they lost to AFC East teams last week. As the Buccaneers, they lost to the Patriots, and the Bills, they got destroyed by the Dolphins. But I think this game should be pretty good. The offense for the Bills is usually pretty good, scoring 27.6 points per game, and they lead the NFL with an average of 153 rushing yards per game. While the Bills' offense was not good last week, as they were held to just 13 points and 87 rushing yards. And the Bills' offense then faced the Buccaneers' defense that is okay, allowing 22.9 points per game, but they are very good against the run, allowing under 100 rushing yards per game. And then on the flip side, the offense for the Buccaneers has really cooled off after a great start, but they're still playing well, scoring 24.4 points per game. And then faced a Bills defense that is okay, allowing 21.9 points per game, but they are terrible at stopping the run. But luckily for the Bills, the Buccaneers don't run the football too effectively, as they're averaging under 100 rushing yards a game. But this is another game that I definitely think can go either way, and it's another tough game to predict. It's interesting to see how both teams bounce back after last week, but I'm going to take the Bills to get the win. I just think they got the slightly better overall team. I trust their offense a little bit more, and the Bills are also at home. I'm going to take the Bills to get the win by a score of 26-21. Next game, we have the Texans at the Titans. The Texans, they've been a little bit better recently, as they're now 4-5, and they've won 2 of their last 3 games. And they're also coming off an insane comeback win over the Jaguars, where they scored 26 points in the fourth quarter to get the win. And I definitely think the Texans can continue to play well, because they don't face the Titans team that's one of the worst in the NFL, as they're 1-8. But the offense for the Texans is going to be starting Davis Mills at quarterback once again, as CJ Stroud remains out with a concussion. And Davis Mills actually wasn't terrible last week, throwing for 292 yards, and he had 3 total touchdowns. And I think Mills and the Texans offense could play well once again, because Titans defense is pretty bad, allowing over 28 points a game. And on the flip side, the Titans offense is also bad, as they're worse in the NFL, putting up just 14 points a game. And then they'll face the number 1 scoring defense, as Texans are giving up just 16.7 points per game. But I'm going to take the Texans to get the win here. I still don't completely trust them with Davis Mills at quarterback, but I don't really think the Titans are good at all. So I'll take the Texans to get the win fairly convincingly, 21-9. Up next with the Bears at the Vikings. This is another interesting game. The Bears, they're 6-3, and they've been playing well, having won 6 of their last 7. And then they'll face a Vikings team that is decent as they're 4-5, while they're trending in the opposite direction, having lost 3 of their last 4. But I think this game could be pretty interesting. The offense for the Bears is playing well, scoring 26.6 points per game, and they've got the second best rush offense in the NFL, rushing for 147 rushing yards per game. And Caleb Williams is also playing pretty well as of late. But the Bears offense, they now match up against the Vikings defense that isn't great, isn't terrible, allowing 23.7 points per game. And they also aren't anything too impressive against the run. And then on the offensive side of the ball for the Vikings, they're not the greatest, scoring 22.3 points per game, and JJ McCarthy is banged up once again, this time it's a bruised hand. Although McCarthy should be good to go for this week's game. And McCarthy and the Vikings offense, they face the Bears defense that really isn't that good, as they're allowing 27.4 points per game. But this is another tough game to predict, and I can definitely see this game going either way. I can see the Vikings with the win because they're at home, but I'm going to take the Bears to get the win. I really like what they've been doing offensively, and I trust them more than I trust JJ McCarthy and the Vikings offense. So I'm going to take the Bears to win a close game, and they've also been great in close games this season. So I'm going to take the Bears to win a close game by a score of 26-20. Next game, we have the Packers at the Giants. The Packers, they've not been playing well, having lost back-to-back games, and in those 2 games, their offense has been terrible, combining for 20 points. But they don't face a Giants team that isn't great, as they're 2-8, and they just fried Brian Daboll. But I definitely think this game is going to be pretty close, and I don't think it's going to be an easy win for the Packers. But the offense for the Packers, as I said a second ago, has not been good, as they scored 7 points last week and just 13 the week before. But the Packers offense, they have a great opportunity to really get going, because they face a bad Giants defense that's giving up 27.3 points per game. And even though the Giants, they did fire Brian Daboll, they did decide to keep Shane Bowen, who's their defensive coordinator, and he's probably the worst defensive coordinator in the NFL. So I definitely think the Packers offense will play well. Now, on the flip side, the offense for the Giants is without Jackson Dart, as he has a concussion, and the Giants, they're going to be starting Jameis Winston at quarterback instead of Russell Wilson. And that's definitely the right decision, because Russ was terrible replacing Jackson Dart last week. But Jameis Winston now faces an elite Packers defense that is allowing 19.6 points per game. But I think this game is actually going to be somewhat entertaining. I can see this game going one of 2 ways. 1, Jameis Winston throws for 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, and the Giants win. Or 2, Jameis Winston throws for 250 yards, touchdown, and 3 picks, and the Packers win pretty easily. But I definitely think it's somewhere in the middle there. I don't really think the Giants are going to look amazing. I don't think they'll look terrible. I think this is going to be a fairly close game. I think this game might be closer than some people expect, but I'm still going to take the Packers to get the win, 27-21. Next game, we have the Bengals at the Steelers. And this is another pretty tough game to predict. The Bengals, they're 3-6 and coming off a bye, and the Steelers, they're 5-4, although they've really fallen off after their hot start, losing 3 of their last 4. But this is a pretty interesting game. The Bengals offense is okay, scoring 24 points per game, but they played really well in the first meeting against the Steelers, putting up 33 points, and in that game, Joe Flacco was great, throwing for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I definitely think the Bengals offense could play well once again, because the Steelers defense isn't great, allowing 24.4 points per game, and they also have the worst pass defense in the NFL. Now, on the flip side, the offense for the Steelers isn't great. They're scoring 23.6 points per game, and they were terrible last week with just 10 points against the Chargers. But the Steelers offense, they get a much easier matchup this week, as they face the Bengals defense that's worst in the NFL, allowing 33.3 points per game, and they've also got the worst pass defense in the NFL. But this is a game that can definitely go their way, and I really have no idea who to predict. I don't really trust either team. I don't trust the Bengals because of their defense. I don't trust the Steelers because of how inconsistent their offense is. But this game can really go either way. I'm going to take the Steelers because I don't see the Bengals sweeping the Steelers this season. And the Steelers are at home, but this game is pretty much a coin flip. I got the Steelers in a higher scoring game, 30-24. Next game, we have the Chargers at the Jaguars. The Chargers, they're 7-3, and coming off a nice win over the Steelers. And the Jaguars, they're 5-4, and they blew a huge lead against the Texans last week. And the Jaguars, they're another team trending in the wrong direction, as they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. But this is another game where I really have no idea who wins. The Chargers' offense is pretty good, scoring 24 points per game, and I could see them having a nice game against the Jaguar defense is not the greatest. And the Jaguars' defense is also bad against the pass, so I think Justin Herbert could play well as long as he has time to throw. And then on the flip side, the offense for the Jaguars is okay, as they're scoring 22 points a game, and they face a good Chargers defense, allowing 20 points per game. But this is another tough game to predict. I'm going to take the Chargers to get the win because I think they're the slightly better overall team, and I'm going to take them 24-20, but this is another game that can definitely go their way. Next game, we have the Seahawks at the Rams. This is a huge game, and this game is going to be really good, as both these teams are 7-2, tied for the best record in the NFC, and both these teams are also playing well, having won 4 straight. But this is going to be a great game. On the offensive side of the ball for the Seahawks, they've been playing really well, as they're third in the NFL, scoring 30.6 points per game. And Sam Darnold is also playing at a really high level, as he leads the NFL with 9.9 yards per pass attempt. But Seahawks offense, they get a tough test this week against a great Rams defense that is second in the NFL, along with 17 points per game. And on the flip side, the offense for the Rams is also great, as they're fifth in the NFL, putting up 27.9 points per game. And Matthew Stafford has been insane recently, with 20 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in his last 5 games. But Stafford and the Rams offense, they also get a very tough matchup because they face a great Seattle defense that is 5th best in the NFL, giving up just 19.1 points per game. But this is a really tough game to predict, and I think these might be the 2 best teams in the NFC. And something that also really makes this game tough to predict is how similar each team is. Because both teams are very good throwing the football, they got a weak defense led by a great defensive line. But I really have no idea who to pick here. I would lean towards the Rams because they're at home, but the Seahawks are one of the best road teams in the NFL, as they've lost just 1 game on the road since the start of last season. This game is really a true coin flip, but I'm still going to take the Rams. They're at home. I trust Matthew Stafford a little bit more than I trust Sam Darnold, and I think the Rams might be the best team in the NFL. So I'm going to take the Rams in a close game, in a lower scoring game 23-20, but this game can definitely go their way, and I'm excited to watch it. Moving on, we have the 49ers at the Cardinals. The 49ers, they're 6-4, although coming in off a tough loss to the Rams. And then if it's the Cardinals team that's 3-6, and they got destroyed by the Seahawks. But I still think this game could be pretty close. The offense for the 49ers is decent, scoring 22 points per game, but I think they could be better this week because they get Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall both back from injury. And they also play a Cardinals defense that isn't the greatest, giving about 24 points per game. Although the Cardinals defense, they have been good at times this season. Then on the flip side, the offense for the Cardinals is going to be starting Jacoby Brissett once again. And he was pretty good last week, even though the Cardinals got destroyed. And Brissett, he's actually thrown 2 touchdowns in all 4 of his starts this season. But Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals offense, they face a 49er defense that is pretty good, although they did not play that well last week, allowing 42 points, and they got shredded through the air. But this is another game that can definitely go either way, and I wouldn't be shocked to see the upset. But I'm going to take the 49ers to get the win. I just think they're the better overall team, and I've got them with the win 26-19. Up next with the Ravens at the Browns. So the Ravens, they're playing pretty well as they're 4-5, and they've won 3 games in a row. And they get a good opportunity to make that 4 wins in a row as they play the Browns. And the Browns aren't exactly great. But the Ravens offense, they've been a lot better recently, and a big reason why is they've gotten the run game going, as they've run for over 150 yards in each of their last 2 games. But the Ravens offense, they face a Browns defense that is actually pretty good at stopping the run, allowing just 97 rushing yards per game, and the Browns defense completely shut down the Ravens run game the first time these 2 teams played in week 2, as the Ravens ran for just 45 yards. And then on the flip side, the offense for the Browns is pretty bad. They're scoring just 16.2 points a game, which is 4th worst in the NFL, and they face a Ravens defense that is showing a lot of improvement, as over their last 3 games, they're allowing just 14 points a game. Well, I'm going to take the Ravens to get the win here by a score of 24-10, but this is another game I wouldn't be shocked if the Browns do pull off the upset, because the Ravens, they haven't swept the Browns since 2020, but I do have the Ravens getting the win. Up next with the Chiefs at the Broncos. This is another great game, and this is a huge game for the AFC West. As you've got the Broncos who are leading the division at 8-2, and you've got the Chiefs who are third in the division at 5-4, and then obviously you've got the Chargers in the middle at 7-3. But this is a really interesting game. The offense for the Chiefs has been great, scoring 26.1 points per game, and Patrick Mahomes is 4th in the NFL with an average of 261 passing yards per game. But the Chiefs, they have struggled to protect Patrick Mahomes recently, as he's been sacked 10 times over their last 4 games. And a big reason why the Chiefs have struggled up front is left tackle Josh Simmons has missed all 4 of those games. Now, he has returned to practice this week for the Chiefs, although they're still not sure if he's going to play. But the Chiefs offense, they get a very tough matchup this week as they face a Broncos defense that's third in the NFL, as they're allowing just 17.3 points per game. And they're also very good against the pass, as they've got the sixth best pass defense, allowing just 179 pass yards per game. And the Broncos pass rush is also elite, as they have 46 sacks on the season, which is best in the NFL by a lot. And that could definitely be a problem for the Chiefs offense. Now, on the flip side, the offense for the Broncos has been very inconsistent. They're scoring 23.5 points per game, but they scored just 10 last week against the Raiders. And I'm definitely a little bit worried about the Broncos offense this week because they now face a really good Chiefs defense, which is fourth in the league, allowing just 17.7 points a game. But this is another really tough game to predict, and I think this is going to be a lower scoring game because of how good each team's defense is. But I could really see this game going either way. I could see the Broncos with the win because they pressure Mahomes constantly and they win a low scoring game. But I could also see the Chiefs with the win because I think their offense could be good enough to score against a tough defense. But another tough game to predict. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I just trust their offense a little bit more, and they don't really trust the Broncos offense, especially with how they've been playing recently. So I'll take the Chiefs by a score of 21-20, but another game that can definitely go their way. Next game, we have the Lions at the Eagles on Sunday Night Football. And we will have a live watch for this game that will start about 8:15 Eastern Time on Sunday, so I hope to see you guys there. But this is going to be a great game, and it's going to be a preview of the NFC Championship game. But in this game, we have a great matchup, as we have a great Lions offense against a great Eagles defense. As the offense for the Lions is second in the NFL, putting up 31.4 points per game, and they had a really good game last week, scoring 44. But they now face an Eagle defense that is playing pretty well, as they allowed just 7 points last week, and on the year, they're allowing 21.3 points per game. And on the flip side, the offense for the Eagles hasn't been anything too amazing, as they're scoring 24.2 points per game, but they haven't been very good through the air or on the ground. And then I face the Lions defense that will give up some points as they're allowing 22.2 on the season, but they're allowing just 294 total yards per game, which is actually 7th best in the NFL. But this is another really tough game to predict, and another game I would not be surprised to see go either way. But I'm going to take the Lions to get the win here. I trust their offense a little bit more. I think they'll be able to score against tough defense. And even though the Eagles offense has done enough to win some games this season, I don't think they'll do enough this week, and I've got the Lions with the win in a close game, 28-24. And our final game, we've got the Cowboys at the Raiders on Monday Night Football. And we will also have a live watch for this game. That will start about 8:15 Eastern Time on Monday, so I hope to see you guys there. But we have a lot of great games this week, but I don't really think this game is going to be one of them. Because we've got the Cowboys who are 3-5-1 against the Raiders who are just 2-7. Although I do think this game could be somewhat entertaining, because we'll probably see a lot of points scored. But on the offensive side of the ball for the Cowboys, they're fourth best in the NFL, putting up 29.2 points per game. But in their last time out against the Cardinals, they scored just 17. But the Cowboys offense, they have a great opportunity to bounce back because the Raiders defense is not great, allowing over 24 points per game. And then on the flip side, the Raiders offense is terrible. They're scoring just 15.4 points per game, but I could see them putting up some points this week because the Cowboys defense is second worst in the NFL, allowing over 30 points a game. But I think this is going to be a higher scoring game because both these teams not very good defensively, so I'm going to take the Cowboys to get the win. I just don't think the Raiders have the offense to keep up, and I've got the Cowboys with the win by a score of 30-20. Well, those are my Week 11 NFL predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications. I do my best to put as often as possible. Be sure to check out the community tab of my channel, where you guys can vote on who you think wins some of those big games. But that's all for this video. I do my best to put as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.